Hey fellow cat lovers, I've got something really cool to share with you today. 10 surprising facts about your cat's tail. Most of us know that a wagging tail on a dog means they're happy, but what about cats? It turns out those little furry tails are even more fascinating than we thought. Let me walk you through some surprising things I learned, plus my own thoughts along the way. Fact 1. Your cat's tail shows their emotions. Now, when I think of pet communication, I usually imagine their facial expressions or maybe their body posture. But their tails. I always thought the tail was more of a secondary thing, but it turns out I was way off. Cats have a whole emotional vocabulary just in their tails. Take my cat, for example. When his tail is upright with a little hook at the tip, he's always in his best mood, super friendly, ready to purr, and asking for attention. On the flip side, I've seen him lash his tail around when something's bothering him. That was my first clue to back off because he's telling me, hey, I need some space. It's all about learning to read the signals. What fascinates me is that if your cat's tail is all puffed up, they're trying to make themselves look bigger to seem more intimidating. It's like they're wearing their own natural armor. So next time you see your cat puffing up, know that they're not just trying to look cute, they're in full defense mode. I think a lot of people don't realize that reading a cat's tail can be key to understanding them emotionally. And as someone who loves spending time with my pets, knowing these cues can totally change the way you interact with your furry friends. Fact 2. The tail helps with balance. This is one I kind of expected but didn't fully appreciate until I really started paying attention. Cats are like nature's acrobats, right? They're always darting around the house, running across narrow surfaces, jumping from couch to table, and never missing a beat. It's amazing. I always assumed they were just that naturally agile, but the tail plays a huge role in this balancing act. Imagine your cat chasing a toy or running full speed ahead, and suddenly they stop on a dime or leap onto a thin ledge. If you watch closely, you'll notice that their tail actually moves in the opposite direction to balance out their body. It's like their own built-in tightrope walker's pole, and it keeps them stable no matter what they're doing. The tail acts as a counterbalance, which helps explain why they rarely fall or make missteps. I find that incredible, especially considering how clumsy we humans can be. I mean, if I tried to jump onto my dining room chair from across the room, I'd probably break a leg. But cats, no problem, and it's all thanks to that tail. Fact 3. 10% of their bones are in their tail. Here's a wild fact I wasn't expecting. Almost 10% of a cat's bones are in its tail. Isn't that crazy? It makes sense though, because if you look closely, their tails are incredibly flexible, moving in ways that seem impossible. I guess all those little bones help with that movement. To put it in perspective, a typical cat has around 230 bones in total, and 18 to 23 of those are in the tail. That's what allows for the crazy amount of flexibility cats have in their tails. The vertebrae are connected by these elastic, cushion-like discs, which absorb shock and allow them to land safely from high places. It's not just about the bones, the tail is packed with muscles and nerves, too. I honestly think we underestimate just how much goes into making a cat's tail so functional. When you think about it, their tail is like a super tool that helps with so many things: balance, communication, and even survival in the wild. And it all comes down to this remarkable structure that's evolved over time. This really makes me appreciate how well-engineered cats are by nature. They're like little marvels of design. Fact 4. Your cat can break their tail. Now, as durable as those tails are, they can still break. This one hit home for me because I never thought about a cat breaking their tail, but it makes sense. I mean, it's made of bones, and bones can break. If your cat falls awkwardly, gets into a fight, or even gets hit by something, there's a chance they might injure their tail. If you ever see your cat's tail go limp or sit at a weird angle, take them to the vet ASAP. This can be a sign that something is seriously wrong. And while most broken tails can heal, leaving them untreated can cause some pretty serious issues, like nerve damage. It's really easy to overlook something like this, but it's important to get your cat checked out if you ever suspect an injury. I think this serves as a reminder that even though cats seem so tough and independent, they still need our help when they're hurt. It's easy to assume they'll be fine on their own, but injuries like these can have long-term effects if not treated properly. Fact 5. Manx cats and their tailless trait. Okay, let's talk about Manx cats for a second, one of the only domestic cat breeds that are naturally tailless. I've always thought they were kind of unique looking, and now I know why. The lack of a tail in Manx cats is due to a genetic mutation that's been preserved through selective breeding. But what I didn't know is how complicated and potentially problematic this can be. If you breed two Manx cats together, the kittens can end up with serious health problems due to a condition called Manx syndrome. This is why breeders are very careful to pair Manx cats with non-Manx partners to avoid passing on to copies of the gene. It's fascinating but also a bit sad, knowing that such a cute trait can come with so much risk. This raises a lot of ethical questions around breeding. While the Manx's tailless trait is adorable, it can sometimes come at a cost to the cat's well-being. It's a tricky situation, and it really makes me think about the line between preserving a breed and ensuring the animals are healthy. Fact 6. Tail length varies a lot. Now, not all cats have the same tail length. Some breeds like the American bobtail or Japanese bobtail naturally have shorter tails, and it's just a part of their charm. These shorter tails are typically genetic, but unlike the Manx cat, these breeds don't seem to suffer from any negative health effects because of it. In contrast, breeds like the Maine Coon and Norwegian forest cat are known for their long, luxurious tails. I've even read that the world record for the longest tail on a living domestic cat belongs to a Maine Coon named Altair. His tail is over 16 inches long, and that's not all. His brother, Cygnus, held the record for the longest tail ever at 17.58 inches. Can you imagine walking around with a tail that long? It's amazing to see how much variety there is in cats, from their fur to their tails. No two cats are alike, and that's one of the reasons I love them so much. They're all unique little personalities, even down to their physical traits. Fact 7. Only domestic cats can hold their tails upright. I was surprised to learn that only domestic cats can hold their tails upright while walking. I always thought this was just something all cats did, but it turns out that wild cats like lions, tigers, and leopards can't do this. They keep their tails lower to the ground, likely because of their size and muscle mass. But domestic cats, they strut around with their tails held high like they own the place. That upright tail is a sign of confidence and happiness, and I see it all the time in my own cat. When he's feeling good, his tail is straight up, almost like a flag announcing, "I'm the boss here." Fact 8. Cats can live without their tails. Even though a cat's tail is super important, they can live without it if they have to. Whether due to injury or illness, some cats end up getting their tails amputated, and they adapt pretty quickly. It's called a cordectomy, and while the idea sounds kind of sad, it's actually not as devastating for the cat as you might think. Yes, they'll need to readjust their balance and use other forms of communication, but overall, they can live happy, healthy lives without a tail. It's a testament to how resilient cats are. They just figure it out and keep going. We could all learn a thing or two from their adaptability. Fact 9. Tail injuries can be serious. That said, while a cat can live without a tail, tail injuries can be serious. A tail is an extension of the spinal cord, so any injury to the base of the tail can potentially cause nerve damage. I've read that this can lead to things like drooping tails, loss of sensation, or even issues with the hind legs. It's scary to think about, but it's good to know so you can take action if something happens. If you ever notice your cat's tail looks off or they're acting differently, don't hesitate to take them to the vet. Fact 10. The tail is super sensitive. Lastly, let's not forget that the tail is super sensitive. It's packed with nerve endings, so even though it's strong and flexible, it's also really delicate. That's why some cats absolutely hate having their tails touched. My cat's pretty neutral about it, but I've seen other cats completely freak out if someone even gets near their tail. This makes total sense when you think about how many important functions the tail serves. It's almost like the cat's second brain. It helps with balance, communication, and, as we've seen, it's pretty vulnerable. So next time you're petting your cat, keep that in mind and be gentle. So there you have it, 10 surprising facts about your cat's tail that will make you appreciate them even more. Have you noticed any of these things in your own cat? Let me know in the comments below. And don't forget to share this with fellow cat lovers who might be as obsessed with their fur babies as we are.